So are you ready to take your electrical model to the next level by getting some 3D conduits modeled? In this one, we're going to show you how to do that simply and quickly. So stay tuned. Hey guys, this is Rob. Welcome to another Revit electrical video. Let's get right into it. So here we are back in our electrical tutorial project we've been working on, and we're going to zoom into the electrical room to start this conduit discussion. Now, first of all, we want to know, why would we show conduits 3D modeled in an electrical engineering document? Well, we've always tried to show large conduits in our documents. Over the years, even in CAD and even way before in hand drafting days, people would show conduit routing, and we call it diagrammatically, like a general sense of there's going to be a conduit here at this approximate depth. Exact routing will be determined in the field, but we want to give a sense for just some of these things that are taking up space in our building. And that can be used for coordination with other trades. Well, now that we can do this all in 3D and Revit, there's a lot of coordination that can happen between our conduits, ductwork, structure, plumbing, many other things. So we want to show large conduits, typically about 1.5 inches and larger, and their generic routing. Again, it'll change in the field when contractors get a hold of the field conditions out there. So back in the CAD days, typically, it would be shown with a detail line that is hidden. And let's say we go from our main distribution board over here to panel 1B, we might show it something like this. And it would simply be a dash line. It's not a double line conduit. It is purely a dash line, and that would just show the intent that there's a conduit from here to there. And let's say we'd take another one over here to the automatic transfer switch. So we would roughly show where these are. If we needed to show a path, we would show that. If we're dodging footings, if we know we're dodging other, plumbing and things like that, we would show a different path. For example, let's say we did this and we needed to dodge some other pieces of equipment. We might do something like that. That's typically how conduits have been shown. However, now that we can do this in 3 dimensions in Revit fairly simply, that's very helpful for the design team for coordination. So let's get into how we do that, now that we know why. First thing you'll want to look at is, what views do we need to do this? Doing this all in the plan view is not practical. So we need more than a plan view. We'll need some sections through our building so that we can deal with the vertical pieces of conduit. So let's do some sections. Up top in our quick access toolbar, we can go to a section right here, and let's cut a section within this electrical room. Let's say we want to model this one conduit that feeds panel 1B. We would like a section, cross section around here, looking up in the page so that we can see, and we double click the head there to get the section. By default, we get a section of the entire building, all the floors. We're going to narrow that down for our purposes. Eventually, we might need more of a section. We can pull this out as we do floors, higher floors. But right now we're just looking at this one room. So here we have kind of a outline. I had thin lines on, turn these back off. We have a section view of that room, and it gives us an elevation of the far wall. Here's a light hanging way down here. Here's our main switchboard and some panels. Now we have this section like this so that we can draw a conduit. We're going to go feed overhead. We're going to go up out of the MDP, get high enough where we can get a bend, and then bend it down into this panel over here. There's other ways to do this, of course. A contractor can put an extension on the top of the board and come out the face possibly, or come out the top. So there's many different ways to do it. We're going to show one possible way that this can be done for, again, diagrammatic purposes, for coordination purposes. So there's that. So let's go back to this here. And another section that can be handy as well is this one, which I already have drawn in. And that's looking at the face of our switchboard. So we can see where that conduit comes up this direction. So we can tile these. Up here under View, we can go over to Tile Views, and it's WT, Window Tile, and that will let us deal with all of these views at once. Now, if you're using 2 monitors, this is really nice too. You can spread things out. But on these demonstrations, I'm just using a single screen here. So the idea here is we're going to start drawing our conduit in the plan view, and then we will look at these section views to really dial it in. So let us start drawing a conduit, see what we get. Let's go to Systems, and here's the Conduit tab. Out of the box, Revit comes with some conduits loaded, some fittings loaded, mainly elbows and things like that, which is what we're going to use. So we hit Conduit, and on the right, hopefully underneath my camera here, you can see the different conduit choices. Conduit without fittings, conduit with fittings. Now again, for our diagrammatic purposes, we are not detailing this out fitting by fitting. I'll leave that to the contractors who do an incredible job. I've seen so many incredible detailed models done by contractors. So I'll leave it up to the electricians to do some of that. We're just doing diagrammatic drawings. So we're going to use no fittings. We can use EMT, rigid. So let's use EMT. That's a very standard material to be used inside of a building. It won't change much. It'll change the exact outer diameter type of thing, but we're just trying to get close. So let's say that we know this panel is a 200 amp panel and we want to feed that. It's going to be a 2.5 inch conduit. So you want to get an idea of what size conduit you'll have. And so there's our conduit trade size. We're all in inches here in the US. And then we can pick an elevation to start with. I know from previous work that this light is at 8 feet. I want to get up above the light and have enough room for my bend. So I'm going to say right now, we're going to look at 9 feet to the bottom end. So put 9 feet. This is a starting point. Now in my plan view, I can start drawing this route of the conduit. Now I know that my incoming service comes in here in the MDB, so this is a service entrance. So I will be bringing feeders out of another section down here. So again, these aren't exact based on a shop drawing yet. This is diagrammatic, so I'm going to start here. If I was to start right here, look what happens. Now this blue shows that I'm looking at the actual top surface of that switchboard. And this blue is the top surface. And so here's my conduit I'm putting in. I can move it around on that board exactly where I want it. A lot of people do it this way. I've tried a number of different ways, and the way we prefer is to not actually do this, not actually connect it to this connector. If I connect a conduit to this, and I'll show you for demonstration purposes, let's say that's okay, and I connect it that way, and I'm going to stop it right there. Now if I tab over this conduit to select the whole run, it's attached to the panel. So if I try to move this conduit, I'm actually moving everything. It's all connected, and that's not what I want. I want to be able to move this conduit around it later on if I need to. So I don't connect these. Plus, as you get a larger model, the performance of this connection goes crazy. So let me tab this and delete that conduit and start over. The way we prefer to do this is to go conduit and not physically connect it to the panels. So what I do is I get close here, but not over top of it. And then on the same thing on the panel, I get close, but not over top of it. So I'll do something like this. Now they're not connected. However, once that's drawn, I can now drag the end of this somewhere over the panel or switchboard, and it doesn't try to connect. So that's the technique that we use. So that's my horizontal conduit. And if you look down here, you'll actually see it. Now, this view, I need to click on it to see it, electrical section isn't quite set up the way I prefer. I need to see double wall conduit. So how do we do that? I have one here called MFIA section distribution. This is a company setup. It's turned on some shading. So what I have in this template is the detail level is turned to fine. There's 3 choices: coarse, medium, fine. Our normal plans and elevations by default come in like a coarse or medium because we don't want to see the 2-wall conduit. In this kind of detail we do. I've also down here under model display, you edit that, I have shaded. There's a number of styles. You can go wireframe, hidden line is typically what we see. You can go realistic with textures and all that, but shaded works for us and gives us a nice idea of the solid items in our drawing. We zoom in here. I need to get this conduit now down to the top of this without connecting it. If I click on the conduit, you'll see this little device here. I can drag that left and right, or I can right click right on it. If I just click on the conduit, I don't get the same choices. I need to click at the end of it, and I get draw conduit. That will continue drawing my same conduit. So I can now come down and do a vertical. Again, if I attach it here, I'll get that top view of my switchboard with all of that. I don't want to do that. I'm going to stop a little bit short right there. I have enough room for that bend radius, and that's in settings. You can change what type of radius you want. I click on this. Now I want to align the end of this conduit with my board without touching it. So I simply use up top in the modify panel, I use the align tool. Align, and I want to align to this, and that's what I want to align. So I pick my target I want to go to first, and then pick that. and escape out of that. Now, if this gets kind of messy because of these thick lines, you can go up here to the top and turn thin lines on, and that will give you just thin lines to see better. So over here again, here's the panel that I'm bringing it the top into, and I don't even have to click it. I can just get close and say right click, draw a conduit, pull it down, get close, and then use my align tool to align it. And there it appears to be connected without actually using the connection. My conduit is still, tab it is only by itself. It's not an entire system to be moved. Now I can tweak these conduits. If I just select the one piece itself, I can move this around where I want. If I want to come in towards the back of that top. But I can also, instead of just moving it like this, I can get some fine movements using your arrow keys. If you just nudge, it's a little nudge with your arrow keys, you can get that exactly where you want. So that shows what I have here. Now, another thing I need to mention is this view is an enlarged view. It's actually this guy down here, the enlarged electrical room. And I have set it up to see both lines of my conduit. And the way I've done that, again, power plan 1/4 inch, and I've called this one distribution. I have my normal power plan, which will not show double line conduits and such because it would get cluttery. I have a separate set of templates, and I'll have a separate set of views that will show distribution with the double line conduits and even some sections elevations with all the conduit. I have separate views for that rather than cluttering up my normal power plan. In the power plan, it's just going to be a single line. So power plan distribution, I have again turned the detail level here, this guy, to fine. If I have coarse, you see I just get a single line with these giant green circles. Now, while I'm here, let me explain what's going on with these green circles. This is a setting that is called the rise or drop visibility of a conduit. Many times a conduit, and even plumbers do this with their pipes, if it's a drop down, it'll be solid. If it's a rise up, it may be open. So what we can do is go up to our manage. We can go up to our manage tab, MEP settings here in the middle. Go to electrical settings, and you'll see down here under conduit settings, click on rise drop. So you can see the rise symbol is just the outline, the drop is filled. But the rise drop size, the annotation size, so annotation when we're looking at a plan view is 1/8 inch circle. That's large to me. I don't need these giant 1/8 inch green circles on my plan. I'm going to go to a 32nd of an inch. Now you can set it whatever you like. Then I have, it kind of disappears and I don't need these giant green circles. That's just my preference. So that's how that works. I can change this either dragging it where I want, or I can put in an actual bottom end at 10 feet. I don't draw hangers. I'm not even drawing fittings. This is purely diagrammatic to indicate that there's going to be something here that we need to coordinate with each other. Now this view here is helpful if I need to move the conduit left and right on top of this. I can take this conduit and move it left and right. Now what does it do? It moves the whole conduit, as you can see. But I can, fine tune this to where I want it. What happened over here is I moved it outside of the range of my section. So that's why it disappeared. So that's that one. Now let's look at an underground conduit. Let's go over here, make this view be our first floor power plan. I want to model this conduit that feeds the ATS, the transfer switch. So I'm going to start at the MDB, and I'm going to go with a straight shot for now. We'll use that and then coordinate that with the other trades, and we'll see if we have to modify it. So let us go do similar to what we did before. And we can look at our sizing, but let's say this is going to be a bigger conduit. This is a 4-inch conduit. So I'm going to go up to Systems, Conduit. This time I want to change the diameter to a 4-inch. And I want the top end to be 3 feet below grade. So I'm going to put -3 feet. Apply that. It tells you where the middle elevation, the lower end, all that. So the top is going to be at -3. So I'm going to draw this in from the main distribution board. Not here, it's going to try to connect. I'm going to draw it here. And I'm going to draw it over and not connect here, but get close. Now, I got none of the created elements are visible in this floor plan. You may want to check the active view, parameters, visibility settings, plan regions, and all those things. Okay. So we have a visibility issue where we cannot see our conduit. From experience, what's happening here is we are drawing something below the bottom end of our view range. We know conduits as a category are already turned on because I can see this conduit, because that could be another issue. There's a number of things to check, but we have conduits turned on. So I'm going to guess that it's a view range issue. I need to look at the view range of this view. I'm highlighted here, so let me go down and look at my power plan 1/8 inch. What is the view range of this view template? Okay, now what I've done is I've detached unincluded view range from my template so that I can vary it on each floor. You can do that, or you can make them all the same. In this case, I kept it separate because I want the first floor different instead of making a separate view template. What I have here, the bottom is the associated level, so level 1 is the bottom, and then view depth would be how much below that in a plan view can I see. So it's at 0. Now, I'm not going to change it here because this is changing it in my view template, and my view range is not included in this template. So let me get out of here. I need to change it directly. So I need to go to my view range here and change the view depth below the associated level. So I need to have a negative offset, negative 10 feet to look below the floor. And then all of a sudden that conduit appears. So now let's finish this conduit. I need some more sections. First of all, I need to move this section down a bit so that I'll be able to see the connector here. This other section I can't see in this view. I can only see in the enlarged view. Now let's see why. Click on that. Something to keep in mind up here is some of these sections have a visibility setting about what scale of drawing they will appear or not. So if you have a number of sections, let's say in this 1/4 inch view, if I don't want all of these section symbols to show up in my normal plan view, you get very cluttered, you can set a hide at scales coarser or like larger than that scale. So I need to make this sure I can see this at 1/8 inch. Now I'll be able to see this on my 1/8 inch power plan. So there you go. So now I can see that. And I've already got it open. So it's not that big a deal. In this view, I will want to drop below so that I can see my conduit. And already I'm starting to see it down here. Now it's just a partial piece because of my section, where my section is, but I can see the end. And this is the end that I need to deal with. If I was to extend this conduit right now, you can see that I'm looking at an angle. My section is somewhat at an angle here. So if I was to extend this from here, draw a conduit this way to get it underneath, you can see in plan view that it's put a bend in it. And that's not what I'm looking for. So I need to get rid of that piece. It actually put an elbow and it bent it. So I need to extend it here in this view. So let me get to the end of this conduit and extend it here. If I extend it over it or under, it's not going to attach. So now I can actually attach it here, draw a conduit, and get close like that. Use my align tool again to align it to the bottom of that board. So that's that end. Now how's the other end look? Now the other end, we need some sections to deal with this. Let's get this drawn further. I'm just doing single line on this view, but that works. And now we can draw a section. Let's draw a section this way. Right there. Double click that. Now this section, we want to have the same kind of view template as the other, a section for distribution. And we need to change it properly so we can see. So here's a section of that. Now we can take this end, draw it, get close, and like before, just use the align tool to get it close without connecting it. So now we have that. And we can go back to our floor plan here. So now we've modeled simply and fairly quickly some conduits for coordination. One other view I would like to show that's handy for coordination yourself, as well as for presenting this. Sometimes I like to present a 3D model of my distribution system on my drawings is creating a 3D view. So if you go up top here, the little house, and go to default 3D view, you get a 3D view of that section. Now we can expand this to be a 3D view of the entire building by moving the section cuts further away. So if we move these sections out to here, we're starting to get the entire building, and there's sections here. We can pull the top up, and it starts to grind because it's trying to draw the entire building. And then we can kind of tweak with the settings of this view to just show the distribution system. So we can go into our visibility, and we don't have a template on here. We can go to our visibility and start turning things off. We can actually simply turn off the entire model with one click of a button, if that's what we want. And then you can see how you're starting to see some of our electrical only. We can turn off things like lights. We can turn off lighting, devices and fixtures. Now we just have electrical. Maybe we don't want to see receptacles, so now we can turn off electrical fixtures, leave the equipment on, which is our panels. We left conduits on, so now we can see our building in 3 dimensions. And we need to pop the section view down a bit so we can see what's under the ground. And there. So this kind of gives you a 3D view of our distribution system. And as you develop it and draw it more, this will, of course, fill out. I often save these settings as a separate view template for a 3D distribution view. And again, you can create your own view, call it 3D distribution, and you can drag that onto a set of drawings. You can change the angles, and we close the rest of these views. If I like this view and this angle, because I can change it around up here with this 3D box, I can change the angle that I'm looking at. Let's see, I like this angle. So I have this 3D view that I like. I can annotate it and put some text up here. I had red text from before, but I can start labeling things here. ATS, and then get this documented such. This would mainly just be for a 3D view. It gives you a nice overall view of your distribution system. So hopefully this has helped you to see how to fairly simply and quickly model some conduits in your diagrammatic electrical model. So until next time.